support. And every mayor understands this, and mayors get it, and city managers understand this. That again, I mentioned this in my talk. We live or die on sales tax. So mayors that understand how important tourism is, understand how important sales tax is. And Visit Edmond understands this. They do it really, really well. And again, I'm just so thankful for Mayor for Dan for his support of the tourism industry in his own city. He gets it. He's doing a wonderful job as the mayor of Edmond. So without further ado, Mayor O'Neill.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor. We really appreciate having Edmond included in the tourism summit that you're having today. It is an honor to serve any community as mayor, and we have a very special community here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to serve. We also really appreciate you and what you're doing to champion and Governor Stitt and Representative Mike Osborne, our efforts to make our community a tourism destination. Tourism is one of those ventures that pulls all the cities together. We all benefit, especially when we get together and work together and stay involved in this project. All Oklahoma communities and all mayors are really proud of their hometowns. Us Okies, we sort of have our own little welcome wagon pitch, and we pull it out all the time when appropriate to share it with the out-of-towners who we meet. In Edmond, we're very proud of our school system. We're very proud of our neighborhood and our community parks. They're award-winning community parks, and all the services that our city employees provide. Our business community and churches and our downtown, they're just, we're very proud of them. And we especially relish our heritage. You know, Edmond started as a tent city. On the land run on April 22nd, 1889, the day of the Great Land Run, there were about 200 tents pitched out in downtown Edmond. They were homesteaders who had raced across the plains in wagons and horses to stake their claim for land and a future full of promise. We deeply honor that heritage in many, many different ways in our community. One aspect of tourism I think is Edmond is sort of best well known for is youth sports. Whether baseball, basketball, soccer, football, we have kids that are involved in all of those sports activities: golf, track, field, biking, rugby, and we host a lot of tournaments and we go to a lot of tournaments. And we have events in our town that are pretty indicative of our commitment to youth sports. This year we opened up the Edmond Center tennis facility, a joint project with our Edmond school system. And we added our first dedicated pickleball facility out by our golf course at Kickingbird. So youth sports is certainly important to our community. The second aspect of Edmond tourism has to be Route 66. Lieutenant Governor, I got to tell you that the top 2 Route 66 attractions in the entire state of Oklahoma are in Edmond, Oklahoma. Not only the oldest attraction, but the newest attraction on Route 66. The top 2. That's the Arcadia Barn, the Round Barn at Arcadia, and Pops at Arcadia. And of course, everybody knows that Arcadia is located inside Edmond. So we claim the top 2 Route 66 attractions in Edmond. Now, our Mayor, Arcadia Mayor James Woodward and I, we have this ongoing debate as to which city is the suburb of the other. But I can guarantee you, we both agree that you can't drive or ride Route 66 in Edmond and not see the Round Barn or Pops in Arcadia. We also know when you drive up I-35 at 2nd and I-35, in the middle of Edmond, we have a big green sign that says, "Exit here to visit the Round Barn in Arcadia." The Edmond happens to have about 12 miles of the original Route 66 in our town. Not sure how it happened back in the 30s, but it was a big deal and it meant a lot to our community in those days. Today, 7 miles are no longer officially US 66, but they are known as the historic Route 66. We have a lot of special attractions on the open road just outside Arcadia on the official US 66 road. First of all, we have Arcadia Lake, and that extends to 2 to 3 miles along Route 66, just 1 mile west of Pops. The Arcadia Lake is not necessarily a big lake, but it is an important water resource for our community and certainly a recreational resource for our community. And we had a lot of our citizens spending a lot of time out at Lake Arcadia, especially this year. The walking and biking trails that we are building there, we have nearly 5 miles completed, and we should someday have 20 miles when finished. This is a major attraction for walkers and cyclists on this premier trail. On the north side of Lake Arcadia, on the other side of Route 66, believe it or not, we have the Love Family Ranch.
Hey, James, how you doing?
Anyway, the Love Family Ranch, Sugar Hill neighborhood, is protected by an ancient buffalo statue. Next to it is the Mixer Longhorn Ranch. Not many places can you drive Oklahoma on Route 66 and see a herd of longhorn cattle grazing on the prairie. We also have the Edmond 66 softball park there. There are many amenities that enhance the ride and the Route 66 attraction. Downtown, we have other events such as the Edmond Historical Museum. We have Chief Touching the Clouds, hanging over and watching over Route 66. Chief Touching the Clouds is 18 foot high, 15 foot wide on the UCO campus, and it is right next to Route 66. In UCO, we have the Old North Schoolhouse. We have the 1889 Edmond Schoolhouse. We have historic statues like Kentucky Daisy and the Great Land Run. And we have a statue dedicated to Edmond's Shannon Miller, America's greatest Olympic gymnast. Now, we don't have a blue whale like Catoosa, okay? But Edmond does have our own iconic blue figure. It's the blue hippo on Broadway and on historic Route 66. The third tourist attraction I think we have in our community is cyclists. The east side of our town along Lake Arcadia is a strong cycle magnet. Bike riders really like the open road. It is a great venue for the 100K races. Bike rallies are perfect on the back roads of East Edmond and Luther and Jones and Spencer and Logan County. This celebration that you talked about, Lieutenant Governor, of the Route 66 Centennial, we share Representative Mike Osborne's enthusiasm for this effort and for the Cycle 66 ride to commemorate the centennial of Route 66. This is a great project, and Edmond is all in for this event. I guess the next part of my job is sort of to introduce Josh Moore. Josh Moore is a city council member. His family lives east of Arcadia Lake. He's on the very fringe of town. He's so far over on the other side of town, his zip code is in Jones, Oklahoma. So anyway, we're very glad to have Josh on our city council. He's a home builder. He's very active in our community. He runs the annual turkey trot farm. He's committed to a lot of public service projects in our community. He has a very unique background and enthusiasm. We're very glad to have him on board. Let's give a warm welcome to Josh Moore, Edmond City Council. Josh?
My goodness, Mayor, thank you so much for that introduction. And I always love to hear you tell the story of Edmond. You're so good at it, and you have wonderful memories and such a good library of Edmond's history that you share all the time. And I do love to hear that. I also, love to hear Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell speak every chance I can get. The thing about Matt is he always talks about the things that I seem to get excited about, and it's eating, it's fishing, it's biking, it's visiting cool places, it's things that jump out to young people and all of us. And so I for one am thankful that we have Matt in the state of Oklahoma and tells the story just like the mayor does for Edmond. tells the story for Oklahoma as well as he does, and just honestly gets me jazzed to tell the story for Edmond and Oklahoma as well. So thank you both for doing that. I don't know if there's a lot that I can add to what the mayor said, but I'll certainly try. My ward, I'm the Ward 2 Edmond City Councilman, and my ward is basically East Edmond. And I don't know if people know, but the center city limits is at I-35 in Covell. You would think that it's somewhere in our downtown area just because that's where everything was developed when the railroad first came. But we have grown quite a bit since then as far as our city limits. And so we have 56 square miles that exist of city limits on the east side of I-35. Not a lot of it is developed yet, but eventually that is the direction that Edmond has to go. So I have about 26,000 people in my ward specifically, and a lot of that land size is made up of east of the interstate. I like to call it the Adventure District. I kind of get in trouble by our tourism director, Jennifer Seaton, because I know there's another Adventure District in Oklahoma, but we do have Arcadia Lake, and we have trails, and we have trees, and we have a lot of wonderful out in kind of called the Adventure District side of Edmond. I thought one thing I was kind of thinking about while the mayor was talking, what I can dive into that maybe he didn't, was how does Edmond kind of tackle
Josh, you froze up a little bit there. We'll give you about 2 or 3 minutes to refresh.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can. You're back on.
I'm sorry about that. Another, and something that's fortunate about being in East Edmond is the trees and the hills. And one thing that's unfortunate is our high-speed internet isn't that great for the time being. But one thing I thought I would dive into about Edmond is how we work together to create activities and tourism events and things for our citizens to do that we know will help grow our economy. And like Matt said, provide jobs, recruit businesses here, and just enhance the quality of life for our citizens of Edmond. We have 24 citizen-based committees in Edmond, and they will range anywhere from public works to finance to urban forestry to capital improvement projects. And a few of these committees that are all centered around kind of like what we're talking about today with tourism, and specifically bike tourism, is the Visit Edmond Committee, then the Parks and Recreation Committee, and we also have a Bicycle Committee, and then we also have an Arcadia Lake Commission as well. And all of these committees are made up of citizens of Edmond that meet once a month at least to talk about initiatives and goals for those specific markets and those specific things. Now, when I was campaigning about a year and a half ago, young families and young couples and families in general, and even empty nesters, a common theme that I heard was, Josh, we want things to do. We want activities outside. We want things to visit in the winter. We want trails to ride on. We want things to go visit. And so we take that seriously on our city council, and all of that feeds down from our committee work eventually to our city council. And we have strategic goals, strategic planning goals that get specific as far as we want to create bike trails. We want to create parks. We want to enhance our public art projects. And so all of these things may recruit tourism, and at the same time enhance the quality of life for our citizens. I'll end on just kind of a mode that I'm in right now, because we've had so much outdoor activity during COVID. We had on one of our new trails at Arcadia Lake called Spring Creek, we set up a counter in March and April, and it counts the amount of people. It's got a little laser, and it counts the amount of people that go through this counter. And we averaged over 10,000 people per month in March and April that were on this particular trail. We knew without a doubt that people were out and about and they were using our trails. And so what that says to me as a citizen of Edmond and as a city councilman, that is, if we build it, they will probably come in this arena, whether it's enhancing Arcadia Lake and camping and restaurants and perhaps lodging in our trail system at Arcadia Lake, if it's our public art downtown and anything downtown and our entire trail system. If we build it, we think they will come. So we constantly talk about those things as far as we can do. I think my time is up, and I want to thank you all again for being here and learning more about Edmond and getting to talk about something I like even more, which is biking. So thank you for being here. I'm going to introduce our wonderful tourism director. She's been with us, I think it's a little over a year now, and she has been a blessing. I get to serve on the Visit Edmond board as one of my responsibilities as a councilman, and I have had a blast being around Jennifer Seaton. She's a champion for Edmond already. She is always trying to figure out ways for us to get better and improve our tourism and tell the story of Edmond so people will come. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Edmond, everyone. I know we're virtual, but hopefully you learned something new about our town. So I appreciate Mayor Dan and Councilman Josh. So we get to move into a panel discussion. So there's 3 of us here today. And the reason we selected cycling tourism is because of you. We actually sent out a survey, and in the other comment box, cycling tourism came up a few times, and I thought I'm going to grab that because we have some things going on in Edmond that is perfect for this topic. So we're just going to introduce ourselves briefly. You already know me, Jennifer Seaton, so I'll let Bill go.
Yeah, Bill Elliott. I'm with Bike Oklahoma. We're the state advocacy organization, and we promote fun, fitness, and transportation for cycling.
And my name is Mike Osborne. I have a company called Polygram, and we do event management here in the state. But I am also the state representative for Edmond, for Central Edmond, actually. And so it is a pleasure to be with you all today, and it's a pleasure to be involved in tourism in Oklahoma, and especially in Edmond.
Sweet, thank you. And you know, we want this to be engaging. We've been to the other summits and they've done a really great job. So any questions in the chat we'll be looking at. And you know, just like everyone else in their communities, we're looking for new revenue. And one thought that we had is, you know, cycling can be an amazing revenue source. So I'm going to share my screen real quick and talk about a few things. Can everyone see that? Josh, can you give me a thumbs up? Can you see it? Okay, great. So this is some of the things that I've learned. Oops, here we go. This is really interesting to me when we started doing some research. So this is some stats that I feel like people are willing to spend some money. They're a little bit older. They're very interested in our communities. So they want to shop, they want to stay, they want to spend locally, they want to do some meaningful visits. And if we provide these opportunities for some cyclists, they will come to our communities and they will stay and spend money. There's also some large community benefits. We looked at, they're spending an average of $75 a day, and there are some initiatives like Free Wheel Oklahoma, where it takes about 6 days to go across the whole state of Oklahoma. And there really are some big revenue sources and job creation with bicycle tourism. So these community benefits, as well as the healthy benefits, I think can be a great opportunity for our communities with cycling. We have a new brochure. UCO is our college here on campus, and in the chat right now, you're going to see a link to a digital brochure, which really is brand new, and it promotes our self-guided tour of art on a bicycle. So we're trying to find creative ways for people to experience our city. And some ideas that we've had, we're just kind of dipping our toe in the cycling tourism with Edmond, with the trails that you heard about, as well as engaging our citizens and visitors to do some self-guided tours. And you can have, if you really talk about it on your website and in your literature, to show that there are places to stay, there are easy maps to look at. There's entertainment along the route. I really feel like signage is really important, and packaging with partners to do some staycations, to do some packaging, and even have some rides. So I know a lot of our communities have rides, and we call them t-shirt rides, but there's also, more serious rides. But these are some ways I feel like bicycle tourism can even get to the forefront of a revenue source for our communities. I'm going to take this down for a minute and let Bill talk about some comparisons with other cities.
Yeah, when we try to figure out where can the money come from for cycling tourism, we can look at some of our neighbors. As an example, Missouri, we'll bring up a diagram on that in a minute, but basically Missouri has really come to the forefront with a program called Rails to Trails. And what they do is a railroad company will quit using a rail line, and through partnerships with private and government organizations, that rail line is then converted into a recreational park. It's a very long park. An example is the Missouri Katy Trail. It runs from Clinton, Missouri to St. Louis. And the amount of tourism dollars they generate is enormous. Let's go ahead and bring that slide up at this point. I want to show you as an example. I have ridden the Katy Trail. It took me a week to ride from Clinton to St. Louis. A lot of fun. I spent on average of about $160 per day on that particular trip. And so you can see here of all the tourist dollars that are being generated through this program. So here's an opportunity for Oklahoma to develop our own resources for generating tourism dollars. Let's go on to the next one. The next example we've already talked about a little bit, Bentonville. This is northwest region of Arkansas. Bentonville put together a $35 million bike trail from Fayetteville to Bentonville. And you can see here from the slide, the dollars that are being generated just from that. I've also ridden on that. In fact, I've ridden it 3 times. It's such a fun ride to do. And each time I do that, I spend over $100 a day for that ride. And it's, again, it's an opportunity Oklahoma has to do something like this with our wonderful tourism opportunities. So yeah, let's go on. So I'm going to change gears here a little bit. If you are a bicycle rider, what can you do? What are some of the resources? And I'm going to just point out that for cycling, benefits to cyclists individually, cycling improves your health. You get to see new sights. You get to meet new people. You get to relax, slow down. we have an unfiltered experience and making some new memories. Now, this an organization can generate bicycle maps, and you can buy those for about $12 each. In this case, this is a set that goes an entire route of Route 66 from Chicago to LA, and I believe there's one map that covers Oklahoma, and it shows real specific the route itself, where to turn. It will help you find places to stay, bike shops, medical help, and it's a very good resource for bicycle tourists. Let's go on. I want to tell you a little bit about this program. It's called the U.S. Bike Route System. And as you see on the map, there is a established set of bike routes. And these bike routes have numbers, just like a regular road. And it's numbered by the same organization that numbers roads. A state may choose to designate a set of roads as a U.S. bike route, and if that is submitted to this organization, then they will then approve that and allow us to have signage along the way to tell where this U.S. bike route is. Let's go on to the next slide, and here's an example of a sign that you can put up to do that. Now, it does not cost any money for the state to apply for this designation. If they want to put up the signs, that can be done by the individual communities along the bike route and or the state itself. Obviously, Route 66 would be an excellent bike route for Oklahoma, but there's many others. I could foresee, for instance, the Chisholm Trail that goes up Route US 81 would be a great one, or the Trail of Tears in Tahlequah would be a great place. So I think if you could use your imagination and think about your community, what could your community do to bring in a bike route through your community? And so Bike Oklahoma is poised to help you with figuring out how that's done, who to talk to, and see if we can get something going on that. The next thing I want to show you is where you can find more information about this program. The Bike Oklahoma website can be accessed via the URL bikeok.org. And you can see this is the very first page, and right at the top, here's a section on bicycle tourism, and you can click on the button, and then it'll take you through various sections. Many of these will look very much like the slides we've been looking at today. And then towards the bottom is more information about, here's the comparisons of Missouri, here's Northwest Arkansas, and then at the bottom is contact us. And this is a great way for you to let us know of your interest in learning more about the U.S. Bike Route System or any other way that Bike Oklahoma can help you. So. Believe that.
Yeah, so that's kind of and some ideas that we had. And again, we'll looking into any questions we have on the chat, because Mike gets to speak next about Cycle 66.
Oh, there was one more slide, the Oklahoma map.
Yes, let me show you one more thing.
Yeah, so certainly maps are an important thing. Jennifer had talked earlier about if your community could generate a bicycle map for your tourists that come in.
Digital would be great.
That would be great. The website that I just told you about, bikeok.org, also has a link to lots of maps for Oklahoma. And like I said earlier, Route 66 would be an obvious choice for U.S. Bike Route. Many others, even in the Panhandle, there is a stretch of highway where a bicyclist could travel through 5 states in 72 miles. And it would be a great place for Oklahoma to
Wow.
generate. Yeah, can you imagine having a jersey that says, I rode 5 states in one day? So here's another opportunity for Oklahoma to generate more tourism through some creative thoughts. So, all right, that's it.
So now's a chance for you to ask any questions, and we can talk a little bit about bicycle tourism and your communities and what you've done. I know one question was, how does Edmond look regarding bicycle parking racks? So we actually have some new ones. One is right outside the rail yard. So Edmond Rail Yard is a new dining district in downtown Edmond where there's 7 restaurants under one roof, and you can go outside for dining and inside, and there's places to park your bike there. So that is becoming really popular. So as new venues come up, making room for bikes is really helpful. So that was a great question. So bike rentals is also the next question. And I think communities need to have bike rentals. I know that Josh, in fact, if you want to share a little bit about the vacation that you just took, that was pretty inspiring.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. I feel like the timing is right to jump right into this forum because our family, for fall break, we got to visit the Seaside, Florida area last week. And I kid you not, we flew in and we took an Uber to where we were staying there along the beach. And within 10 minutes, we had 4 bikes rented for our family. And that is all we needed for the entire vacation. And we were there for 4 days, and no telling how many miles we biked. It really didn't matter. I don't think we were counting, but that's what we did to go to the grocery store and to go to the beach and to go to dinner every night. And so the bikes were very affordable. All of them are the same from, it seems like each bike rental shop that's there, and they're very visible and out in the open. But it was, man, I can't imagine a better example of that area of having bikes available to rent and being set up for mobility that way.
So as it pertains to tourism, you know, where do cyclists typically spend their money? And I think if we can get longer routes, obviously lodging tax is key to all of us, and we want people to spend the night in our communities. So sometimes we have a little ways to go on that because I feel like they typically spend their money on food and maybe some retail. I would say food first, retail second, and lodging third. But if we can have longer routes that are like 10, 20 miles longer, and even going from community to community, then they will stay the night more. So that was a great question, Colin. Thank you. We'll keep our eye on the chat, but I do want to do a little segue to Mike, because we've got some exciting things to share about what Edmond is doing on a new ride. So let me share my screen real quick here.
Okay, so as I mentioned in my introduction, I have a company that does event management, and we, 6 or 7 years ago, I kind of had this idea to do or create an event or some kind of a statewide event highlighting Route 66. And as the Lieutenant Governor mentioned, we here in Oklahoma have the most drivable miles of arguably the most famous highway in the world, and so it seemed obvious to those of us who were talking about this that something that focused in on Route 66 was was a winner. And so we dreamed up this idea to have a sort of a Sturgis type motorcycle rally that sort of connected a lot of different communities here in Oklahoma, with Oklahoma City obviously as the hub of that, Oklahoma City and Edmond as the hub of that. So the problem was, that was a pretty that was an event that was on a pretty grand scale, and it was a little bit more difficult to kind of conceptualize that and actually get it put together, get it seated and all of that kind of stuff. So we kind of put that on the shelf for a little while, and began actually and I ran for office, and a lot of stuff happened throughout there, and I started focusing a little bit more on some other clients. But then this guy named Matt Pinnell ran for and won lieutenant governor, and he started talking again in earnest about Route 66 and marketing Route 66 and making sure that Oklahoma is inextricably connected to Route 66. And so shortly after his election, I met with him and asked him what he thought about my idea of having a motorcycle rally, Sturgis kind of motorcycle rally surrounding that. And he said, yeah, that sounds great, but why don't you concentrate a little bit more on bicycling, on cycling instead of motorcycles? There's a lot of interest in that right now, and you're not seeing it just yet, but there's a lot of interest in that coming and moving up. And I said, that sounds like a great idea. So we went kind of back to the drawing board and came up with this idea to have a cycling event along and focused on Route 66, beginning and ending in Edmond, and having several different lengths of courses that you can do, and you can go ahead and put that slide up if you want to, and so we have decided that that we're going to have an event here in Edmond, and we're calling it Cycle 66. We had originally planned to have the inaugural event on Sunday, November the 8th of 2020. However, as we have mentioned a number of times during this call today, this fun thing called COVID came in and has upset our plans a little bit. So and then after we figured out that it probably wasn't going to happen in November of this year, we decided to maybe move it to the spring of next year. But then, as a reference to the reason why we were using Edmond or using November was because the anniversary, the birthday of Route 66 is November 11th, and the centennial of that's going to be in 2026. But November the 11th is the anniversary, and so that's what we wanted to focus on. Something that I didn't think about until later, and now I try to say this every time. Also, Oklahoma statehood began in November as well, and so we have that sort of synergy there, where we're going to look to actually November. It's right up there on your screen. Sunday, November the 7th, 2021, as the inaugural date, and we are very excited about it. Cycle 66, as I mentioned, was going to begin and end in downtown Edmond. It's going to have like a herd on herd, for those of you who are from around here, herd on herd type festival atmosphere at the start and finish line of this. There's going to be several different courses, as is mentioned there on the screen, a 66-mile ride, a 33-mile ride, and a 10-mile ride. The 66-mile ride will actually go through not only Oklahoma City, start in Edmond, but not only go through Oklahoma City, but also through Jones, through Luther, and then back down Route 66 there in, past Arcadia and back here to Edmond. And so we're just basically excited about, capitalizing on the renewed interest brought and the renewed focus brought on Route 66 by Lieutenant Governor Pinnell. We're excited to highlight Edmond and the other communities involved in it, and we're looking actually to launch this thing very soon. And I have a bonus for you as a result of you being on this call today. We're actually going to give you a sneak peek at our new logo. Hold on just one second before you do that. So we are actually planning to launch our website and roll out our new brand on November the 11th of this year, here in a couple of weeks. And at that time we'll have some examples of what some merchandise is going to look like. Our website is going to be fully up and functional, except for a few modules, including registration, which will happen later on. But we're excited about rolling that out, but I wanted to give you all a quick little sneak peek at what our new logo is going to look like. So if you'll switch that over, that is our new Cycle 66 logo. There are a lot of iterations of that. If you will look up in the right-hand corner of your screen, that is also a part of our branding package, and the three different lines and the colors are for the three different distances that you can ride. So the 66 mile is denoted by the orange, the 33 miles denoted by the green blue there, and the purple is the 10-mile family ride. It's going to be a great thing. I highly encourage you all to stay up with it and watch for the announcements and watch for the opening of things. And we hope you'll come and join us here in November of 2021 as we have our inaugural Cycle 66 ride.
One question in the chat, Mike, is how we're going to make this different from a t-shirt ride.
Well, that's a great question. Both of these people here with me are actually on the steering committee for this Cycle 66, and I might have them jump in here too. But this is it's not a race here at the beginning. We just felt like that was too much to take on here at one time. So in essence, it is going to be a t-shirt ride. But it is going to be on a much grander scale, we believe. It's going to be larger and farther than, and here in the coming years, we will also, look to add more events to it, like maybe even an off-road, kind of ride, those kinds of things. And so we expect it to be different because it's going to be on a much larger scale.
I would say the major thing is we're celebrating a birthday. This is our 94th birthday for Route 66. Let's celebrate it and get out and ride our bikes.
And yes, what about the fundraising component?
Well, a lot of that actually is going to be taken care of, as most of these events are. It will be through sponsorship dollars and through what do you call it? Entry fees, as well as merchandise sales and other things. So that's one thing. But what the proceeds of this is going to be for is here at the beginning, we are going to benefit the OU Medicines. It's an Autumn Life Behavioral Health Center. 75% of the proceeds are going to be going to that. 25% of the proceeds are going to be going to Oklahoma Route 66 Foundation, and it is going to be it's going to be a fun deal. So please join us.
So I know Marilyn is on the call, and she's part of this as well. And so benefiting Route 66 is always going to be a part of this. The other fundraiser could change from time to time. We also hope to change the route from year to year. So those are the kinds of things that Edmond has in mind to help promote cycling tourism between the trails. And another question is, are we doing anything to provide bikes for those who do not own one personally?
Well, that's something that we certainly haven't thought of, but we will definitely discuss it and talk about it, because that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, we want it to be all inclusive. And then what I like about the 10, the 33, and the 66, 10 miles targets a family ride. The 33 mile might be someone like me. I'm a cyclist, but I am going, the 66 would be a huge stretch. But then you also get to do the avid cyclists, and so they can do that 66 miles. So you see all three audiences with those distances.
And some of the route will be on original Route 66, including the part that goes by the state capitol.
Right.
That's correct.
So those are great questions in the chat. And so the Cycle 66 is, one piece of what we were talking about. So, anything else we wanted to be engaging with what your community is doing, or any questions that people have about cycling tourism, is now's the time. Thank you, Joyce. I think the Pawnee Recreation Committee, we're trying to give ideas for a lot of different communities today. And, Edmond isn't necessarily the expert on cycling tourism, but we have seen the excitement. And we also know that building these trails takes a long time. So you just have to get started and keep going. I have noticed that the off-road trails, in addition to the concrete trails, are becoming more and more popular. I want to talk a little bit more about that bike route and how they would.
The Cycle 66 route?
Well, no, the bike.
The US bike route.
Oh, yeah, sure, I'd be glad to. Let me tell you a little bit of the history of this. Back in 2012, we had the Oklahoma Bike Summit, and at that event, Oklahoma was introduced to the whole concept of the US bike route, including the proposal to make the entire route of Route 66 a US bike route. And so at that point, a committee within Bike Oklahoma got together. They traveled through the entire route of Route 66 through the state, and signed up each of the communities that were responsible for their part of Route 66 to be supportive of this initiative. We have, at that point, we took this to ODOT to submit. We're still waiting for that, so that's where we can get lots of help from the folks on this call, including the Lieutenant Governor, to help us convince ODOT that this is a program that does need to go forward. By the way, Missouri and Kansas have both approved their Route 66 to be a US bike route. What other things should I talk about?
Well, and the cons, from what I understand, is safety. So safety is a concern. So that is one of the reasons that we've heard that Oklahoma Department of Transportation has not given us the thumbs up yet. But we feel like we can make it safe for cyclists.
Correct. The being obviously, anytime a cyclist is on the road, you're taking certain risks. But the entire U.S. bike route system through the United States, there is no specific requirement that a road is safer or less safe. That's really not part of it. The important thing is this is a significant place for people to ride bicycles. Once you are designated the U.S. bike route, then you get to put up the signs. And the signage is an important part. The other thing it does is it puts your state on the map. Earlier, I showed you a map of the United States with U.S. bike routes. Currently, Oklahoma has no U.S. bike routes running through it. And when people are planning their tourism dollars and where they're going to spend it, they look at the map and find out where the routes are. And if we were to have some routes inside Oklahoma, then that's an incentive for people to then decide to come to Oklahoma, ride their bikes, and spend their money here.
It could be fun to do some sort of challenge for towns and cities to be able to boast that their community won the challenge. It could be based on the number of participants from that community. So there are some, great ideas and energy that could be built around this if this is something that Oklahoma wants to do. And those are one of the things we can talk about in our breakout rooms. I'll give a couple more minutes for any questions before we kind of divide up. We've got some great moderators, and if you stay, you're entered to win a $50 gift card. You actually get to choose what business or attraction or restaurant in Edmond that is your favorite. So everyone that participates in the breakout rooms will be entered to win a $50 gift card to Edmond. I do have another question about folks who ride on these roads are experienced long distance. That's true. So those roads are for some more serious riders. What do you think about that?
That's right. Typically the people who are doing these long distance rides, they're very experienced. They are very comfortable about riding in traffic, and they know the rules of the road, and they know what they can do. They ride. They typically have lights on their bikes to make them more stand out more. They wear bright clothing. They know the right places in the road to ride to make it safest for them.
So that's a very good point.
And that, by the way, is one of the things that we have a subcommittee that is just focused on safety en route for Cycle 66, and we know that there are some pieces of what we are using for the course that are not necessarily as safe, and so if you're just out riding, so we will pay very close attention to that and make sure that all the aspects of ours is safe for everybody on that day.
There's a couple more things as far as safe riding on roads. One is we can make a difference on where ODOT decides to spend their money. And if we can put some influence, then I think we can convince ODOT to perhaps build more shoulders along Route 666, especially as the Centennial is coming up. We're going to have a lot more traffic and more bicyclists riding on that. I think that would go a long ways towards a safer riding experience.
Yeah, we agree. Great question about the e-bikes. Do you have an opinion on e-bikes, Bill?
E-bikes are great.
They are. I feel like they're cheaters, but that's okay.
No. As we get older, sometimes e-bikes are great, even if we're not older. E-bikes are the thing. It's coming. Let's get ready. It's get ready. And as time goes by, we're going to see more and more e-bikes, and it's going to give riders who perhaps wanted to ride a certain distance can now ride a little further, especially long distance rides like this.
Explain what it is.
E-bikes are bikes that have a battery and a motor, and it's called electric assist. And it allows a bike rider, they don't necessarily take over the pedaling, but they assist and can give you a little more power, especially going up hills. And I think that's where the real power and the benefit of e-bikes is. Sometimes when you're riding a bike, it's great riding flat or going downhill, but when you hit those hills, you'd like to have a little bit of help, and that's where the e-bikes come into play.
It's a great point about the anxiety, Katie. Also, what do they range? Like, how much does it cost to have an e-bike?
E-bikes probably run from about $1,500 to $3,000.
So they're a little bit of an investment, even though depending on your bike, they do range in cost. So, and to answer your question, Josh, I think it can be a good way. I think e-bikes can really benefit cycling in a good way, so that more people will get out there. Oh, $8,000! Wow, $8,000 for an e-bike. Woo! There you go.
That's very, very high.
Yeah. That's funny.
They call that a Harley.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. I hope it has spurred some ideas and thoughts for your community. Actually, what's interesting, Jan Fees, the president of our cycling community, maybe you can respond to this in the chat, but we are working on approving e-bikes on our trails and part of our city ordinance. So I think your city, if every city has an ordinance, and e-bikes, whether they are a part of that or not, is something to look into. So that's another good question. So that's in the works for Edmond to get that approved. Yep, they are not a danger. I see some e-bike enthusiasts out there. Okay, they're not cheaters. I take that back right now. I'm so sorry. Okay, I think we're ready for breakout rooms. Shandy, if you want to get us started.
All right, everybody, you've already been assigned a breakout room, and there's a moderator in each room with some icebreaker questions to get things going. You'll be leaving from your room, so once your room is done, and we'll be drawing a name from those that attended the end. And just thank you so much from the Oklahoma Travel Industry Association and the Lieutenant Governor's Office and Visit Edmond for being with us today. We appreciate you.